I'm here with Andrea Mates, who has recently retired from teaching to focus full time on becoming a starting strength coach, which she has accomplished just a couple of weeks ago. Congratulations, Andrea, and welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks. It's great to be chatting with you anytime.
And really exciting to be doing it as a former apprentice of Starting Strength Austin and now a starting strength coach. So, congrats. That is a tremendous accomplishment.
Yeah, it's pretty surreal having been in the mindset of being an apprentice for a year about, and then yeah, the SSC doesn't the having a met the qualifications doesn't seem very real at this
Mhm.
point. It's like I still interact with the same lifters, I still interact with the same coaches, and I'm still
Yes.
having a good time.
Well, you also were a member of Starting Strength Austin
Yeah.
prior to becoming an apprentice. So, there's so much I want to cover with you. But you did do a stint in education. Tell me, what your background is in and why you decided to leave education.
Yeah, sure. So I've probably been a teacher my whole life. But after college, I was like, hey, I think I'm a teacher. Let me see how that goes. And so I went and I had been a Russian major. So I went to Kazakhstan and I taught English there for a year and realized, yep, I really love being a teacher. This is a good gig. Um, I came back to the United States because I sort of had promised my parents I'd go to graduate school.
Hmm.
So I went to graduate school, but I had a very poor department. So I supported myself by being a teacher again. So I taught academic writing to graduate students and undergraduates, um, and in various places, supporting myself through graduate school. I got my PhD and had my first child in the same year. So and we moved out of California where we were, and we moved to Texas. So I moved from teaching college students to raising a 0-year-old, and I was like, oh, this is just teaching. It's just teaching something else. And then my son came, and when he went to kindergarten, I was volunteering at my kid's school, and the principal came by one day and she's like, would you teach computer science for us? I was
Cool.
like, I'm a linguist, I don't know any programming, why are you asking? um, but my husband is a programmer, so I was like,
Mhm.
I'm a teacher, I can learn how to teach stuff. So
That's
then
right.
I learned, I taught myself computer science, and I taught it for a number of years. And I don't know, anyone wants to hear Texas State Policy decided to organize computer science education in a different way. And so my classes were getting moved around at school. And I was kind of looking at the tea leaves and saying, I think I'm ready to move out of
Mhm.
teaching at the high school level. And I also saw the apprenticeships opening up
Mhm.
world. So that timing pretty much uh, came together in an unexpected way of being like, I should look toward the next thing and the next thing showing up.
Mhm.
Um, oh, right. So I've always wanted to become a starting strength coach. I just thought I'd do it in retirement. I'd
Mhm.
finish whatever other thing I was doing and find people who are willing to let me coach them. Because when I started lifting in 2013, starting strength gyms didn't exist. The apprenticeship system did not exist. There was I didn't feel like there was a good way for me to learn how to become a coach. But once the gyms existed, and as you mentioned, I've been a starting strength Austin member since it opened, and then the apprenticeship system came online, and I was like,
Mhm.
oh, I have this opportunity now.
Mhm.
So
And
that timeline just worked real well.
I know that you had an important reason for joining in the first place, becoming strong. Tell me a little bit about, what was the kind of the impetus for you joining the gym. I know that you had an experience with picking up your
Yeah,
daughter and
yeah. So I was new at being a mom. I had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old at the time in a grocery store parking lot. Got groceries, trying to get manhandle kids, and I was trying to get my daughter into the shopping cart. She probably weighed 30 pounds. It's kind of this long, stringy kid, and I almost dropped her. And I was like, oh. wait a second. That's not okay. Like moms aren't allowed to drop their kids. I
Right.
don't know when I became so weak that this was a potential problem, but this has got to be fixed. And you know, it's a mom thing, right? Like if
Mhm.
your kids are in danger, just like I'm gonna fix that. And so this was a strength thing to me. It was very evident to me that the problem was I wasn't strong enough. And
Mhm.
so thank God for the internet. I went on the internet. I was like, oh, how do you get strong? And you know, the algorithm works. So I found Starting Strength, and um, I bought the book. That was the end of 2012, and I read it, and I was like, ah, this speaks to my nerd heart. I love all of it. This makes sense to me. I got a gym membership for the first time in my life, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this.
Mhm.
Um,
Was the
the
gym membership,
strangest.
was it the Starting Strength gym, or you were a member
Oh no, that
somewhere
was
else?
2013.
Oh, right.
So that was um,
You joined like a
uh,
general Globo gym?
yeah, like a maybe it was Fitness 19 might be the
Mhm.
franchise that I went to. You know,
Yeah. What?
someplace that happened to have one squat rack,
Mhm.
and that was way too close to the mirrors. You know, where you're just like squeezing yourself in to get plates on the bar, that kind of a thing. And I became stronger than I ever thought humanly possible. Um, the Starting Strength method, you know, has you adding 5 pounds to your lifts every workout for quite a while. And if you do that, all of a sudden I was like, wait, I am deadlifting my body weight.
Mhm.
Normal humans don't do that, but I'm a normal human.
And you saw improvements with how you're able to take care of your children.
Yeah. So I had gotten to a point where I was asking my husband to bring laundry baskets up and downstairs because like, oh no, I'm afraid that I'm gonna fall down the stairs while holding this big bulky thing. And so all of these huge quality of life improvements of yes, being able to feel confident moving my kids around, doing
Mhm.
normal household things. You know, I can manhandle the Christmas tree at the end of the season and get it out the door. It's easier if my husband's around, but if he's busy, you know, I can get it out the door now. I'm not
Mhm.
so worried about it the way I was before.
Mhm. And the Starting Strength gym opened, and you were like,
Yes,
yes.
yes. In fact, a friend in Australia said, "Hey, you know there's a Starting Strength gym opening in Austin?" I was like, "No, why would I know this?" And I looked it up and I was like, "Yes,
And it was the
I'm
first
ready to be
one.
there."
It was the
Yeah.
first one that launched the franchise.
hmm
Must have been very
I did.
exciting.
Yeah. So I live in Austin, and if you had told me that the first franchise gym would be in Austin, I would have been like, "That's kind of odd," but lucky me.
Yes, indeed. And so you joined, and what was that experience like to be around other lifters now? Like you said before, you had to squeeze in
Right.
around the rack. You didn't have the equipment, and now you have this custom-made facility that you are now coaching in, which is wonderful. But what was
Yeah.
that like, becoming a member and joining that community?
It was great. It was uh my coach at the time was Jared Schaefer, and uh it was so all the stuff I'd read um the Starting Strength basic barbell training a couple times, but so I did my best. But as soon as I got there and we went through each of the lifts together, there were things that he pointed out. It was just like, hey, keep this tight. And I was like, oh, that's
Mhm.
what that meant. And all of a
Mhm.
sudden, the movements made so much more sense. The weight on the bar got added in a much more effective way. It was great to have other lifters because I'd been lifting. I gave up on the Globo gym and, and put a rack in my garage.
Nice.
um, yeah, the community is great. The input was great. Um, I struggle with seasonal affective disorder, so knowing someone's waiting for me to show up to do my workout,
Mhm.
um, that was really helpful in the winter months to make sure I
Mhm.
took care of myself.
Mhm.
The people in my life know to ask, hey, are you still lifting? How are
Mhm.
you eating? Those for me are like really early signs of like, hey, maybe I'm struggling. And
Mhm.
so to have those same people asking me those same questions, being like, yes, I am still lifting, and yes, I'm eating well. Um,
Yeah, there's a
that's a really
wonderful
big deal.
it's a wonderful dynamic. What's really specific to the gyms is that that group training effect where, you sign up for your group. For those who are watching this and really don't know, or are, considering becoming members, I try to explain to people that there's this unique dynamic within the groups that helps not just with accountability, but motivation. And these are the groups that these are your assigned groups. So you come at that time on that day, and you really get to know the people
Yep.
who are in your group, and you become more than just a support system. You wind up being training partners. They really influence one another, and I know that that's one of the biggest aspects, the biggest perks of joining this type of group format is, the accountability, the friendship, the support, and it motivates you to come in every time and stay on task.
Yeah, so you and I are talking over the Thanksgiving weekend, and so everyone's schedules are shifted. And one thing that's been fun to notice is my lifters asking each other, "Hey, where's so and so?
Mhm.
Were we expecting so and so to come? Oh no, they're out, visiting their parents or something like that." Because exactly, there's that community expectation that we lift together, and so when someone's missing, it's
Mhm.
like, "Do we know why they're missing? Oh wait, we don't know why. Is everything okay?" Or
Right?
"Yeah, yeah, yeah, it's good." Like they're going to go home for a week or something like that, and
Yes.
um, yeah, I definitely have enjoyed that always, whether as a member, apprentice, or coach.
Mhm.
It's a great part of being at Starting Strength Austin. I will say the one thing I think is unique about Starting Strength Austin are all the conversations we have about video games. Like we were having some conversation recently, and I was like, I bet none of the other gyms are talking about this today.
Well, yes, indeed. It's everyone has their own community, made up by the people who are local, and it just has its own culture. I absolutely appreciate that. Every city has its own little culture in their starting strength gyms. You got gamers, huh?
Yes, we do. And it's the girls and the guys and the young and the old. At this point, video games have been around since the 80s.
Yeah.
So
Hey, I used to play
you,
Atari, so
yeah, you know,
I get it. I get it. So you became a member and then an apprentice. What was that transition like? What was your apprenticeship like? What was it like to
the
be member to apprentice?
member to apprentice was fun because the other members were so supportive of it. They're
Mhm.
like, "Oh, you've become an apprentice," because I would start showing up to like all these other classes,
Yeah.
where maybe I'd only seen them like on a Saturday or some
Mhm.
some odd schedule. Yeah, and they were all so happy for me, and they would be like, "Hey, when are you taking the exam?" And I'd be like, I don't know, I'm not ready for the exam." And then they would let me coach them, and that
Nice.
was terrifying as a new apprentice. It's like, wait a second, someone's supposed to tell me what to do. Someone's
Yeah.
supposed to analyze my movement
Right.
instead I'm being held accountable to take care of them now, and I need to do a good job, and I
Mhm.
don't know what I'm doing yet. Um,
You had a lot of support from your head coach.
yes.
What is that structure like? What is it like coming in as an apprentice? What do you do in terms of shadowing and?
Yeah, at the beginning, when I really didn't have a lot of knowledge and a lot to offer, um, one of my first responsibilities. So we've talked about this group training model, and so everyone's work sets needs to be watched. And so, as
Mhm.
an early apprentice, my assignment was to make sure that um, the lead coach knew who needed to be watched next, because sort of anybody can do that.
Sh- Okay. Yeah.
um, so that was initially my job, that and cleaning stuff, which I
Hmm.
think is like really fair when you don't know what you're
Yeah.
doing.
Well, you're
And then
maintaining the place you love. You're maintaining your gym.
yeah, and that was something a good conversation I had with another one of the coaches who is taking his platform exams shortly. And good luck to Aaron. He was
Mhm.
also a member before he became an apprentice, and we love our gym. Like, we don't clean the gym because we're like, that's a checklist thing. I mean, we do when it's like 10 o'clock at night and we don't want to be there anymore. But there's very much a sense of like, this is our place. We're gonna
Yes.
keep this nice because um, this is ours. And
Yes.
so yeah, I've done hours of cleaning that maybe you know I might not have volunteered for otherwise.
You're well
But eventually,
familiar.
anyways, but as I moved forward in the coaching prep course, we can talk about that in a moment,
Yeah.
and was learning better how to see things on the platform. Um, Whichever lead coach I was working with would start to push me out to like coach warm ups and then to coach work sets. And that I had the privilege of having lots of SSCs come through
Mhm.
Starting Strength Austin at various times. And so I got to see lots of other coaches, and we all work on the same models of what the lift should look like, but people cue in different ways. Different coaches um, see things and address them just a little bit differently, but all the same. And as a learner, that was invaluable to say, okay, like depth always matters. The squat has to be to depth. These are the reasons why this lifter might not have gotten to depth. These are the different ways to cue them to get them to depth. And if I had done it my way before the apprenticeship system, where I had to find my own lifters and teach them and teach myself how to see things like that and correct that, that would have taken so long.
Mhm.
Via the apprenticeship program, for a good part of my apprenticeship, I saw 20 or 30 different lifters a week.
Yeah.
So I got to see so many reps of so many different body types, of so much variety in population and goals and even injury background. Just
Mhm.
it was
Mhm.
such a good system for
Yeah.
learning.
Yeah. It
Um,
really gives you access to seeing different types of lifters move according to the model, which, when it's time to opt into the platform, it becomes very valuable if you have a diverse population that you have access to and you get to see and troubleshoot instead of, like you said, when people have to get their own lifters, maybe you'll have a handful of people that commit to you on a regular basis. And so when you're preparing for the platform exam, if you don't have access to a diverse population and then you encounter someone on the platform that you're not used to working with, it's going to really, it's going to really put you off, and it really affects how successful people are in testing out. And so that's definitely one of the perks in the apprenticeship is access to trainees, in addition to, of course, shadowing that SSC, was making sure that you're doing things correctly and understanding and learning. And but you had mentioned the prep course, and what I was trying to explain to people is that the prep course kind of works in correlation with the apprenticeship on the gym floor. So, it sort of is like it's sort of like the overarching, umbrella of what's guiding your knowledge. And so you join the prep course, you start with basics, you have a mentor assigned to you, and then that's being reinforced on the gym floor. So I guess talk to me a little bit about what that was like when you joined the prep course, and then it's another layer on top of your preparation. Um, what was that like? Did it help you see things and interpret things?
I loved the prep course. I'm a total nerd, and to have more classes effectively tell me to go learn stuff that I wanted to learn anyways was great. What you've pointed out is exactly my experience. So for every module, we had like an academic paper portion, and then we had a video of that we needed to create of ourselves coaching someone in a particular lift focused on a particular issue in the lift. And that was probably the most terrifying part of
Mhm.
the prep course, because I knew someone was going to watch it and tell me how I could be a better coach. Um, it One thing I love about the Star Trek Austin members is they let me do it, and they were so nice to me. I don't think anyone said no. And yeah, they're just so nice, because I was especially lost at the beginning, but also it's awkward to be on video when someone's correcting you.
Yeah.
I would say particularly awkward is like teaching the power clean and the power snatch,
Mhm.
because as a new coach, you probably have the least amount of experience of even ever seeing a power clean, because that's programmed in later
Mhm.
into the novice linear progression. And then, anyways, we'll still.
Yeah, yeah.
But
So you
anyways,
you
it
submit
just
videos into the Slack, and we have an interactive, online classroom, and that's where you submit videos and other people get to see it and ask questions and critique and
But it
things like
really
that.
sharpened my coaching because, um, and it wasn't even a ton. It would say we would get a prompt like, this week we're going to focus on the grip. These are the issues that occur when the grip is in one particular position or the other. This is why we encourage grip like this. Find someone and coach them on their grip. And that's not something I ever would have thought about. I mean, I know it's the
Mhm.
point in the book, maybe a paragraph or two, but the fact that I could practice and fix a grip, with a sentence or two and then be done with it,
Mhm.
it, it just wouldn't have occurred to me that that was training I needed,
Mhm.
but it's super helpful.
Yeah.
And
It
of course, there's like the bigger videos, like teach someone how to squat.
yes.
Find someone who doesn't know how to squat, teach them how to squat. So
Mhm.
that's we got those videos too, also very
And
helpful.
you had writing assignments as well to help support what you were learning,
Mhm. um,
which with your
I
background, I imagine was a little easier, a little put you at a bit of an advantage.
oh, I just had fun. I don't know where anyone else comes from in their background, but I had a ton of fun with it. Yes, so we got to cover lots of different things from uh what it means, what is it, how do you define coach? And as a teacher, and one of my degrees is in teaching English as a second language, so I've gotten a chance to have conversations about the theory of teaching. Um, to have to in this course have to talk about, hey, what does it mean to be a coach? What are we trying to accomplish? Like that's totally, you know
Yeah. Yeah.
stuff I love to think about. And but then it also went to like, hey, we have motor neurons in our brains and they're going to send signals to muscles, and
Mhm.
those muscles need to contract. That was great. I remember telling someone I hated biology in high school. Like none of these cell parts made, it's not that they didn't make sense. I just thought they were useless pieces of information. But now that it was in a muscle cell,
Right.
I
Well,
was like, oh,
yeah.
this is fascinating.
Yeah.
I really
Well,
want
it's
to know.
applied, right? Now you're applying
Exactly.
it. And I also struggle. I used to struggle with sciences. And when I became a starting strength coach, all of a sudden everything made sense because I was applying the anatomy and I was applying the physiology to the thing that I was actually doing. And that's why it's
Yeah.
so important to be a trainee first
Hmm.
of the method. And so did it improve your lifting? Did all of this come together and help you with your
Yeah. I
lifting?
mean, it all circled around. I'm a better coach for having lifted for many years. I lift better because particularly the physics part of understanding the system. Of course, that's in the book, and that's part of why I thought the book was a reasonable place to start with getting stronger. But having to go more deeply and to think along the mechanics of each of the lifts and why we perform movements the way we do. Yeah,
Mhm.
that definitely feeds in every time
Mhm.
I'm under the bar.
Mhm.
Um, One of my lifters, she's a mechanical engineer, so I can use words like, "Hey, you're just creating an unnecessary moment arm." And she's like, "I know, but it doesn't mean that I can like uncreate it." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm so sympathetic to that. Just because I know how the model should be doesn't mean that I can uh, make my movements
Yeah.
be that efficient."
Well, it makes you, I can tell that you're happy doing something that you love so much, and you didn't have to wait for retirement to take on this next step in your career, and the members are lucky to have you. And I know that you have two children, and you found yourself while in the process of becoming a coach, expecting a third. So
Yep.
congratulations.
Thanks.
Because you didn't have your hands full already, you thought,
Yeah.
well,
No.
so we were chatting about that, and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to go to a seminar.
Yes. Going to seminar, I don't, what was I, maybe like at week 8, I was definitely in the like, I just need to not throw up on the platform.
That's right. Changed your focus a little, right?
Yeah. Yeah. How do you feel about the taking the platform exam? I feel terrible. I'm just going to go and do it.
That's right. And you did. And it's a wonderful accomplishment. But now you find yourself again getting a sort of, I guess, the next level of education. Well, what is it like to lift pregnant, right? This is what's going
Yeah.
to make you an even more qualified coach to coach women who are pregnant. So tell me a little bit about what that's been like. What was it like in the beginning, and what adjustments have you had to make? And you and I have had conversations about, what's to come and some of the
Yeah.
challenges. So yeah, share that with
So
us.
since I've been lifting for so long, we have been trying to have a kid for that entire time that I've been lifting. So way back in the beginning, right? So 2013, even then I was like, hey, it'll be really cool to see what it's like to be pregnant while a lifter, because there's this conversation that, hey, this would be really good for pregnant women to exercise in this way. And I hadn't done that when I was pregnant with my older kids. So, but that, that just never happened. So I'm getting to do it now while having spent much more in-depth time with the model, and obviously having just generally more experience with lifting and with life. Um, the biggest thing that I guess I'm working on thinking around is actually something that you have said to me more than once, which is that the baby is the PR.
Mhm.
As a lifter, it's so much fun to like set new PRs. And
Yes.
I'm in my 40s, so life has happened, and I've set PRs and then had, a surgery or something, or I've
Mhm.
had, other major life events, and then you have to take weight off the bar for very legitimate reasons. So it's always exciting to get close to another PR,
Yes.
because it doesn't happen 3 times a week anymore. It happens,
Right.
you know, a couple times a year at this
That's
point.
right.
And I was working toward my next goal, which is a 315 deadlift.
Mm.
And then found out I was pregnant. And then I was like, oh, maybe I'll hit 315, but maybe that shouldn't be my top priority
Right.
right now.
Right.
And so practicing, learning that the delight is going to be the baby. And am I still lifting? Yes, absolutely. I'm lifting, and I'm thinking around the issues. Right now, I'm just coming into the gym with very variable fatigue. I just
Mhm.
don't know how much energy I'm having now that I'm 4 months in. I'm also, well, my body shape has finally changed, so I can't.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like the belt has to be put on differently.
Mhm.
But
The nausea kind of held you back in the beginning.
yeah, the nausea for sure. It's tapering a little bit now. But not just the body shape. Things are tighter and looser in different places, and
Mhm.
all of that affects um, the way the movements can go in terms of moving safely. And that's a I'm thinking about things that I've never had to think
Mhm.
about before, and I'm thinking about them for myself, and I'm also thinking about them for future lifters,
Mhm.
um, because I expect our gym will have more and more
Mhm.
women who are in that stage of life where they want to have kids, and I want them to feel like they can still come, and I want them to feel like they can still lift safely and enjoy their
Mhm.
time. So uh,
Well, you'll be
I
very
don't have
qualified.
answers.
You'll be qualified to give that advice. You'll go firsthand experience on this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have answers, but I think that what I'm hoping to get through this experience is uh, maybe better insight into the variables,
Mhm.
things to keep an eye on, because you have a lot more experience with this even than I do, that women experience pregnancy differently.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I used to when I first started applying barbell training, my gym had predominantly, you know, female population, and not one person was exactly the same as the next. And so there are some general guidelines that I would adhere to about, how to guide people and not to push themselves past limits, because like you said, you have plans, you get motivated to pull some big PRs, and then you get pregnant and everything comes to a halt. And so I would manage expectations. I would apply general rules about using the belt use, about fatigue, rest times, checking technique, making sure that as things relax, that there's no asymmetries, and that people are lifting safely. And I found that it was for women, more about managing expectations and helping them understand that the barbell as a tool should be used therapeutically to help support the pregnancy. And fortunately, thanks to this method and thanks to, all the ways that we can accommodate different types of lifters, you can keep lifting throughout your pregnancy. You might have to change the deadlift. It's not off the floor anymore. You might have to make accommodations to things like that and do more partial movements based on the size of your belly or some other conditions you're experiencing. But I found that really the challenge was managing the lifters' expectations, making sure that the women understood that the win was getting in that day, participating in their group so that they felt motivated and supported and could support their mental health, and that physically we were doing everything that was within the comfort zone, because in the
Hmm.
beginning there's so many challenges. And one of the things that we had discussed was the issue of incontinence. And so many women struggle with that as the baby sits funny or, after giving birth. And so that's something that, you and I have had discussions around. And I know that it's something a lot of women encounter. And so having an environment in starting strength gyms where the coaches are educated around the subject, the male coaches as well as the female
Hmm.
coaches, certainly makes it an easier subject to discuss for the female lifter who might be embarrassed. And I know that
Yeah.
that's something that you are working on, kind of learning more about and educating women on.
Yeah. I mean, if the reason why I said, hey, I want to be a coach in retirement is because the quality of life change for me was so huge once I started lifting. And I want other women to experience that quality of life change. So anything that we as starting strength gyms can do that would encourage or remove barriers um, for women so that they would come into a gym, be willing to like approach a barbell.
Mhm.
Uh, those are all very, very worthwhile. So yes, I mean, I myself struggle with incontinence, and I know I'm not the only one, and that's a really big barrier. If you think that every time you're going to squat you're going to pee on the platform,
Mhm.
I could see that being a, well, I don't know if I want to do this.
Right. Yeah.
But it's not an unsolvable problem.
Mhm.
It's something that a coach and a lifter can work through, and it's worth the time to work through because the benefits of strength are just
Mhm.
so tremendous and
Mhm.
cross so many domains of life.
Mhm. And I find that, as you say, that this is something you work through together. Really working through means almost retraining, re-educating the lifter on how they're bracing, things that they really weren't doing in their everyday life correctly. Maybe they were straining too hard and they had developed habits of pushing when they should be bracing and they don't know the difference. And so, like, again, I say it's always a therapeutic tool because you can restart, you can scale progress, you can make everything stronger, and we really wind up re-educating them how to use their bodies again in a way where they can um, kind of relearn and undo bad habits,
Hmm.
and regain their strength with new good habits. And so it's worth approaching this with your coach, with your lifter. A lot of women are embarrassed and they don't really think that there's going to be a solution. They don't realize that they can really retrain themselves and that the coach, the starting strength coach, is well equipped to have these discussions and can work with their healthcare providers around this.
Hmm.
And really we're just an
Yeah.
extension of those professionals that they're working with, but the women wind up relearning things correctly, with more body awareness, once they've become lifters. And so I'm
Yeah,
sure that you,
and that's great for their progress in the gym, but that's great for the rest of life too,
that's right.
because nobody wants to pee when they don't when they don't intend to.
Right. Like when they're jumping, like when they're this, and they just sort of resolve to it. Like, I guess this is it, right, for me.
Hmm.
And I'm just got this thing and I'm embarrassed and it limits my life. And it's when I sneeze and it's when I, and, I'm not saying that we can cure everything in the world, but we can
No.
certainly start from where they are. And, we're so, because we're paying attention to their movement so much and we're so in tune with our lifters and we're so close with them. They can confide in us and we can retrain them and get rid of those bad habits and then make them strong again and rebuild their confidence. And I felt very passionate about it working with women. I know that you do too. And I know your members really appreciate, the effort that you make and how much you care and your experience that you bring to this.
We'll see. I'm just glad they're willing to hang out with me.
Yeah, I think they probably feel a lot different than that. I think that they really appreciate your professionalism and the knowledge that you bring to this. And you did a great job in the prep course, and you had a mentor in the prep course as well, correct?
Yeah. I think everyone benefits from a mentor. I had Mia Inman, and I, I don't know why I got assigned to her, but she also has a PhD. And so there was this immediate nerd connection of like, yeah, we love the deep dive. Like I will not out nerd her. And and I those kinds of people are good people in my life, and she definitely
Yes.
uh, has turned out to be someone that I well, of course I admire her, but I want to know. Uh, I still want to learn from her. Like I
Hmm.
have not tapped out the the amount of experience and knowledge and wisdom that she has, and she's been amazingly available while working her own more than full-time job. I don't
Yes.
know how any of these prep course mentors do it, because we're not their main income.
Mhm.
They have lots of other life to do, and we submit these papers and they turn them around and they give us comments, and they're not even just like, here, you pass. It's like, no, no, you need to think about this more, and you
Mhm.
need to write me back and show me that you thought. Like, they create more work for themselves
Mhm.
by asking us to be better and to know more and to have thought harder. And
Mhm.
again, all you mentor people, I don't know how or why you do it, but all of us who are coming through appreciate your time.
Yes. So you have the mentor in the prep course, and these are people who are passionate about this, equally as passionate as you are, and they enjoy teaching because they find that they learn um, every time that they teach someone. And you have the mentor on the gym floor. The
Hmm.
apprenticeship, yielded uh, you being able to achieve this credential. It's just a streamlined process. And now you're coaching. Have you thought about what the next step is for you, things that you want to do because you're a starting strength coach, people you want to work with? Do you think past right now?
I did before I found out I was pregnant. Um, now I'm just like, huh, we'll get to May and see how things go.
Hmm.
But generally speaking, again, this whole overall theme of, I'm a teacher. I like helping people learn things. That's been our members. I would, we still have apprentices who are getting ready for their platform exams and their oral boards. And having just been through it, it's fun for me to realize that I can help them meet their goals there.
Yes.
And we're kind of still close enough in experience where uh, it's more of a lateral. Hey, I just did this. Make sure you
Hmm.
pay attention to this.
Yes. Good.
Make sure you know these things. These are going to be
Hmm.
important.
Hmm.
So I would love to keep doing more of that. Uh, as I've said, the prep course was really a good experience for me. So
Hmm.
helping other people through their prep course questions would be fun for me.
Hmm.
I just like learning new things, and there's so much to learn. And I like being with people who like to learn new things. And maybe that's true of all starting strength members across all the gyms, but I find our members in Austin are just curious people who um, want to understand. So I don't stand around giving starting strength lectures, but at the same time,
Hmm.
um, when the time arises, we actually have interesting conversations with our
Right.
members
Right.
about what we're doing, why we're doing. Um, so
It
that's
delivers
it's
great value to the member. The members really appreciate that because, like you said, they're, people who are starting strength trainees are people who are interested in learning something new, whether it's the new skill or why they're doing it. it tends to attract people who are more open-minded and more willing to learn and looking to do something more than just exercise.
Mhm.
And to become a coach is a dream come true for people who love to teach like yourself. And then there's that overarching goal of just improving quality of life for people that's so
Yeah.
satisfying. And you have members who I'm sure you've made an impact on, and that you get to work with who could really use your help to improve their life. And is there a particular demographic that you like to work with?
I like to work with weird people.
Hmm.
By
Gamers,
which
gamers.
gamers for sure. Uh, I really like working with the people where there's a lot of bang for the buck. So like 3 months of lifting for someone who is older and has osteoporosis, that makes a huge difference in their life. Sort of your thin, frail people of any age. Uh,
Hmm.
the way I think about it is like your groceries don't care how strong you are. They
Hmm.
just need to go from your car to your kitchen. And the
Hmm.
stronger you are, the easier that task is.
Hmm.
So the weaker you are, your first 3 months of lifting is just going to have a profound change in your life as that 8 pound bottle of milk becomes more and more submaximal for you. You don't
Hmm.
feel like, oh my gosh, I might just drop this whole thing, or you don't have to like sit down and take a breather as soon as you get it into the fridge. You just
That's
bring it
right.
in. It's not no longer a big deal, and you get your
Hmm.
other stuff. And so
Hmm.
those are the populations that I particularly like to work with. Of course, it's always great to have the bros who are just
Hmm.
gonna slap on those big wheels, and then you're like, oh my god, you got to 405 in like 3 months. That was amazing. I love having you guys.
That's right. They
Um,
did the program. The
yeah, they
program
did
works.
especially when they're willing to eat.
That's right.
Like, guys, if you could do thing for me, eat. Screw your
Eat.
abs, eat.
Yes. She'll guide the program. You just eat and recover.
Yeah,
Yes, indeed. Well, I know that your members are very fortunate to have you, and I'm excited to revisit this conversation again with baby by your side and more experience of how you got through training while pregnant. And tell me your Instagram handle where they can follow your progress, because I know you'll be posting about your own training.
yeah. So I post at Mama Mates lifts weights.
I love it. That's a great Instagram tag. And that's where you'll be posting some more of your lifting and
Mhm.
your progress and, talking about what this experience is like. Well, congratulations on the pregnancy, on your credential, and becoming a coach. And I really enjoyed this conversation. I look forward to us sitting down for the part two, where we'll meet
Yeah,
the baby and we'll find out how training went and what you're up to.
that sounds great. Hopefully we'll get to see each other in real life too, sometime between
Yes.
now and this time next
You
year.
can bet on it. You can bet on it. Absolutely. Thanks for joining me today.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Thanks.